What is up, our five loyal listeners? We are on to another week's episode. Welcome to episode 18 of Banter from the Bench podcast. Just to tease what we're going to dive into today, we've got some interesting storylines here in the MLB Postseason. Games are happening as we're talking, so we can always update you guys live. College football, man, it was upset city last week, so we'll dive into a couple of those matchups and what we think of them and those teams. And then, of course, NFL recap and Chicago sports. So a lot of really fun topics today. Some games that we didn't think we'd ever have to talk about, Vandy being one of them. But here we are. Let's roll in.
Sounds straight.
When Kevin said all five listeners, he meant to say all 500. But yeah, kind of an exciting time in the sports world between all the events that happened this past weekend in college football, to MLB postseason being very entertaining, to NBA coming back with preseason, NHL starting up. It's a full slate, best time of the year where you got all the major sports going on, and looking forward to diving into it. So perhaps we'll start off with the biggest one piece of news so far among all the sports is the MLB postseason. Now, I don't know how much you've watched. I have tried to tune in as much as I can. I think probably the most entertaining series thus far, and they're all very good, has been the Padres and the Dodgers. Entertaining in the sense of it's been close games, but there's also some dramatics involved too. So that's one series I've definitely been trying to lock in on whenever I can. Being in the Midwest, it's a little difficult because that's typically like an 8:00 start time. Usually can't make it through a full game because I go to bed about 9:30, 10 o'clock because I'm an old man. But, I get, we can start there. My first overall takeaway from this series, Kevin, is, we talk about teams that are hot. We talk about teams that are, like teams of destiny. It's hard to rule out the Padres as maybe the team of destiny or the team that seems like they're playing the best because, man, they're putting up numbers offensively against the Dodgers. And I don't know if you've paid attention or not, but it's like every night Fernando Tatis Jr. is hitting a home run, and he's played in 5 postseason games. He's hitting .556. He's got 4 home runs, 7 RBIs, 3 walks, and he hasn't struck out this postseason, which is pretty impressive. So, as he's going, so are the Padres, and it's been really fun to watch. What have your thoughts been on that series so far?
They've really handled the Dodgers well. They play frequently, right? So you would think like, oh, they should know how to handle the Dodgers, but playoffs are different, man. And a lot of times in the past, the Padres have folded. This year, it seems like it might be different. They've got their ace on the mound, our ace on the mound, Dylan Cease, who's going tonight in about an hour here. And they have an opportunity to close it out, to move on to the NLCS. And that would be absolutely massive for the Padres, and talk about a massive disappointment for the Dodgers. So I'm here for it, man. I love the philosophy of the Padres front office. They are not afraid to make moves. They're not afraid to get big names. They're not afraid to get rid of prospects. And it seems like maybe this is the season that's finally paying off for them. So I'm all for it. The other team of destiny that, honestly, I don't know how they're doing it, but they are, is the Detroit Tigers. Tigers are up 2-1 in the series right now against the Guardians. I don't know who they have on the mound next, but they are 1 win away from going to the ALCS, which is just insane to me. So what have you noticed from Tigers and Guardians? It's been kind of a quiet series, not a ton of action, but the Tigers are just kind of sneaking away with a 2-1 lead here.
Yeah, you had Cleveland won, I think, game 1, 7-0. That game got out of hand right away. I think they put up 4 in the first inning. And it seems like Cleveland hasn't really done anything offensively since then. I don't know what the score was for the second game off the top of my head. I believe today the final was 3-0. So, Detroit's not having to do a whole lot to be able to sneak away with some games here. Their pitching's held it down, and just kind of looking at the landscape of the rest of this series, it's hard to not think Detroit can pull it off. You got another game in Detroit, which I'm assuming is tomorrow on Thursday. And then let's say Cleveland wins that game. Well, the following game is going to be Terry Skubal pitching for the Tigers, who's the best pitcher in baseball right now, or at least this year. He already saw Cleveland once this series, and he shut them down. So it's hard to think that he isn't capable of doing that again. So kind of looking at it, it'd be surprising if the Tigers weren't able to pull this off. But, at the same time, too, anything can happen. Cleveland's unpredictable team. It seems like they're either quiet or they can, surprise you and put up some numbers with a lineup that on paper doesn't look very impressive, but they always manage to play well and do well with what they got. But yeah, hard to be rooting against the Tigers at this rate. They're kind of just going out there and handling business.
Yeah, I mean, Cleveland's won the division a handful of times lately. It's been more Cleveland than any other team in the AL Central lately. So it's no surprise that if they'd be able to turn around. But I'll tell you what, man, if it's a 3-0 game, the Tigers are going to win it because both games they won is 3-0. So yeah. I guess next game better be 3-0 or they're going to lose. Now, I think the next series we should start with, because it could turn really interesting, is if the Royals manage to beat the Yankees tonight. So it's a 1-1 series. If the Royals go up 2-1 in the series, that could get really interesting. I always thought the Royals were a pretty scrappy team this year. I'm pretty sure I picked the Yankees to win this series, but I remember picking the Royals to make the playoffs as a wild card team. So I wouldn't mind seeing them go up 2-1 and, just having a battle for that final win. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Royals have been kind of surprising me a little bit. I thought they were capable of winning a wild card series, but then after that, it was kind of just like, icing on the cake, whatever happened, whether they got eliminated, whether they advanced, they've already had a very successful season to them, but they've been surprising me with the way they've been keeping up with the Yankees. Obviously, as of late, the Yankees are a team that has been choking in the playoffs year after year. But I think perhaps the most surprising thing about how well the Royals are playing is they're doing this with Bobby Witt Jr. not playing well at all.
Yeah.
Five postseason games, he's hitting 150. And he struck out 5 times, hasn't walked. He doesn't have an extra base hit, driven in 2 runs. So, with him, you're looking at one of the best players in the AL, one of the best players in baseball. And the fact that they're right in the thick of it without him doing what he normally does is pretty impressive, and just goes to show you, they kind of got a good group around him, guys that still can contribute, and they're not reliant on just, one superstar bat in their lineup. But, they got guys like Michael Garcia, Michael Massey, who've been putting up some good games so far, and just kind of seems like, they're figuring out who's going to get that timely hit for them, night after night, and just kind of going from there. So, it's been surprising, but good for them. It's fun to see them be able to go toe to toe with the Yankees, who are always in the playoffs.
It's less about one guy and more about like next man up type of thing, because even Vinny Pasquantino, which they hyped, him coming back, I don't personally think he's that impressive of a player, but he's only hitting 118. Let me see what he hit this season. Oh, he had a pretty good year. 262, 19 homers, 97 RBIs.
He was just hurt. He just came back for the playoffs too, so I think could be a little bit of a timing issue with him.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Also, Yankees have yet to get a hit, so we're in the top of the 4th right now. Pretty impressive outing from Seth Lugo so far. So that is that series. It's 1-1. Tonight will determine who goes ahead. The one that caught me and Sean, and I'm sure a lot of people by surprise, is the Mets and the Phillies. The Mets currently lead 2-1, and they're also winning Game 4, 4-1 right now. So this is in the top of the 8th right now. So they're coming pretty close to clinching to go to the NLCS. Frank the Tank, I'm sure, is probably losing his mind right now, but really impressive by the Mets so far in the postseason, man. They're just getting hot at the right time.
They just don't die. They just will not die. It doesn't matter if they're down 10-0 in the 7th inning. This team always seems to find a way to come back. They've had their back against the wall 100 times in the playoffs already, and they always come through. They always get that big hit when they need it, and they're always just having late game heroics. You know, I know we both predicted Philly to win the World Series. I had a very hard time picking the Mets. Or not picking the Mets just because of how well they've been playing. You look at them kind of like how the Tigers are, but the Mets have a little bit more of that star power to them. And Francisco Lindor has been unbelievable for them. He's been unbelievable for them all season long. He's continuing that in the postseason here. He just hit a go-ahead grand slam tonight, and I don't know if you caught it or not, but just the most nonchalant trot around the bases after hitting a go-ahead grand slam. It's like he knew he was going to do it in that moment, and he knew he was going to give his team the lead, and this was something that they were going to do again. So, very entertaining series. This one's been back and forth quite a bit. You know, if you're a Phillies fan, you know, I don't know. It's a division rival. It sucks to lose to them, but you kind of maybe had to feel like this was a real possibility with just how the Mets were riding into this series.
It's just one of those things, man. Like, if the Mets win tonight, being a Phillies player and Phillies fan, like, all you have to do is just tip your cap. There's literally nothing you can do. Like, the Mets are just hot. They're playing really good ball right now. Francisco Lindor is like showing old flashes of Francisco Lindor. He has been incredible for them. So maybe we got another team of destiny here, Sean. I mean, it seems like every series has a team of destiny except the Yankees Royals. So I'll tell you what, though, it is shaping up to be a really interesting NLCS and ALCS. Like, if we have like Tigers and either Royals or Yankees, and then Mets and potentially the Padres, that Mets-Padres series, dude, that's like appointment television. That will be an awesome series if that's what it ends up being. So I'm excited to see how it all shakes out.
Yeah, I think at this rate, one thing I will probably say, and this will probably end up being wrong because that's just the way it goes, but just overall big picture here, I'm thinking we're probably going to get a National League World Series winner. Whether that's the Mets or the Padres at this point, they're looking like they have, you know, they can take care of business tonight and put themselves closer. But, I mean, even if the Dodgers come back, or Philly comes back for that matter, you know, it looks like I would be surprised if we didn't get a National League World Series winner, but we'll see.
I think so. The Yankees also just took the 1-0 lead on the Royals. I jinxed the no-hitter. Sorry, Seth Lugo. All right, let's jump into college football recap because I think we can spend quite a bit of time here with all the upsets that happened this past weekend. It was, I think, 5 of the top 11 teams that got upset. So we'll start with the first one. Arkansas beating number 4 Tennessee. I just flat out didn't see this happening. And, like, Arkansas is a scrappy team. They historically have been a scrappy team, but, like,
especially as of late.
Dude, Tennessee was just on a different level earlier this season. So, man, I don't know what else to say. Like, I just didn't see it happening.
Yeah, I didn't either. You know, like you kind of mentioned, Arkansas is a little bit of a scrappy team, but I feel like they're always kind of due for a win like this. They just kind of have it in their DNA. Looking at Tennessee's schedule, obviously they're coming off a big win over Oklahoma. Now, you know, we said, is Oklahoma overrated or is Tennessee that good? You know, obviously Oklahoma hasn't looked great since then, but I don't know, maybe Tennessee's just riding the wave of a young quarterback and leader of the team, just kind of experiencing the highs and the lows of the college football season. SEC's tough sledding, man. Just any team can win on any given week. It doesn't matter if you're 0-5 or you're 5-0. Like, you know, besides what we had with Vanderbilt over Alabama, there aren't too many upsets that are a really big shocker in the SEC when it comes to conference play.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just you're just throwing haymakers. You know, that's kind of like how SEC football works. Yeah. Another one. I can't remember if you picked this or not. I want to say you did.
I wanted to. I did. I didn't though.
You picked Minnesota a couple times so far this year, but Minnesota beat number 11 USC.
Yeah, I had them on the wrong week. I picked them to beat Michigan the week before. Minnesota's got an okay team. You know, they got a really good running back, so they can wear teams down. You know, USC is a team that has struggled pretty much ever since they beat LSU to start the year. It's kind of been a little downward trajectory for them. So while, you know, you think like, holy crap, Minnesota just beat USC, not too surprised by that one, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah, Miller Moss especially. I mean, he's got 9 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, but all 4 of those interceptions came in the last 3 games. So he's kind of, you know, starting to struggle more and more here. But it's just Big Ten football too. You know what I mean? Like Minnesota's just used to just Big Ten football and just kind of just fighting through and, you know, digging your nails into the ground and getting shit done. So you can never really be too surprised when you see Big Ten upsets, especially for a team like Minnesota. It's like they haven't been good, but like they're good enough to be able to pull an upset. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Another one, Big Ten game, actually, technically.
Yeah. We called
Washington.
this.
Yeah, we both did. Washington ended up beating Michigan. We kind of felt like it was just a matter of time where Michigan was going to lose a game.
They just haven't looked very good.
Dude, no, and it starts with their starting quarterback. You know what I mean? Like combined between
call him that.
right, combined between their 2 starters, they threw the ball 25 times for 113 yards. You're not going to win many games by doing that, especially if Donovan Edwards isn't putting up 200 yards a game. You know, so Washington won by 10, 27-17. Will Rogers looked pretty good. I would say he's a pretty good quarterback. I wouldn't say he's elite, but this was a home game for Washington too. So they're 4-2 now, 2-1 in the conference. Just overall a solid win for them.
Yep, I agree.
SMU and Louisville. I'll let you give your thoughts. I kind of went on a rant for the last game.
Yeah, I don't really have much to contribute here other than, you know, Louisville's coming off a win over Notre Dame. Gave them a little bit of a boost. SMU's kind of been a respectable program for a few years here. They're always kind of floating around being ranked, and just saw it as, you know, I kind of felt like SMU's a little bit better of a team. So took them to win over Louisville, and, you know, they made me look smart. So
SMU is just playing really good football right now. They lost 1 game this year to BYU, 18-15, which maybe that loss isn't so bad after looking how BYU's been playing. The only reason I know anything about SMU is they've got a lot of former Miami players, and those former Miami players are playing pretty well for them. So just a solid win. You go into Louisville and you come out victorious. Just a good win for them. I mean, there's nothing that they do really well. They just do a lot of the small things pretty well. So that's just how they come away and how they win games. Texas A&M beating Mizzou. This one kind of similar to Michigan, I feel, right? Like it was just a matter of time until Mizzou just got beat up.
Yeah. They're very overrated in my opinion, and they've been playing pretty bad this year. They went to overtime with Vanderbilt, which maybe doesn't look quite as bad now, but gosh, I'm going to pull up their schedule because they've had a lot of close games here. Let's see, Missouri football schedule, but Texas A&M, their quarterback was hurt for a few weeks. He came back. Texas A&M's always a team you can't really overlook, and even though it was an unranked team beating number 9, I really didn't feel like it was that big of an upset.
No.
Yeah, so Boston College, Missouri beat them by 6. They went to overtime with Vanderbilt, and then they got blown out by Texas A&M. So I feel like you were saying, like, it was going to happen eventually where Missouri kind of got, you know, beat up or, you know, they were exposed a little bit. Just hasn't been that exciting of a start to the season for them, so.
No, they had a lot of hype. Dude, I didn't realize this until now. Texas A&M rushed for 5 touchdowns that game. That's insane. Le'Veon Moss had 3 himself. Amari Daniels had 2. Just crazy. They didn't throw a single touchdown. So, yeah, I mean, it was on the other end of the spectrum. It was a really impressive win for Texas A&M. Like if they beat Mizzou by like a touchdown, then it would have been like, okay, fine, whatever. But to beat them by 31, really impressive win by them. So maybe it puts them back on the map. It really, Texas A&M's season kind of lays in the hands of Connor Wegman and how well he plays. But who knows? Maybe this is just the kick in the butt that he needed.
Yeah.
And then last, before we talk about the biggest upset, maybe that might be the biggest upset like in our lifetime. But before we talk about that, let's talk about Syracuse and UNLV.
Never forget Appalachian State over Michigan.
I think this was bigger, honestly.
Syracuse over UNLV. I mean, you and I kind of both talked about Kyle McCord's playing really good football. You know, that's that number 25, you know, like it's a toss-up for a ranking, so it just felt like Syracuse was a hot team to be able to pull off an upset there, and they sure did.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I talked a lot about Kyle McCord and how well he's playing this year. He went and threw 350 yards. He threw the ball 63 times, 355 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. So he was just kind of on the next level, and they got pretty lucky at the end of the game. I don't know if you saw it, but Syracuse's running back almost on 4th down, almost got tackled in the backfield, slipped the tackle, and that's how they ended up winning. He scored on that touchdown. So
sick.
All right, well then let's dive into the biggest upset from this weekend. Vanderbilt upsetting Alabama.
How about that?
Just like we predicted.
You know what? I think at this rate, you can give Vanderbilt a national championship. This is the equivalent of a national championship for them. They've went to overtime with Missouri this year. They beat Virginia Tech, and they've beaten Alabama. The fact that all 3 of those are on their resume for one season, that's like 3 decades worth of success for Vanderbilt. Give them a national championship trophy, like, or just give them an automatic bid to the playoff, like. In all seriousness, it's crazy that we're even able to talk about this. Like, that is such a big upset. And it's such a big upset when you look at the fact that Alabama is just coming off a win against Georgia. And they lost to Vanderbilt on the road, which is essentially just like a home game for Alabama. Because there's not really, like, you know, Vandy fans weren't packing the house. I'm sure they did by the end of the game, but what a story that is,
dude. And they only lost to Mizzou by 3 points too, so that was almost another dub right there. Now the rest of their season, dude, they're either going to have a statement season and like the best season in Vandy history.
They got number 1 Texas coming up. Do you think they do it again?
They have at Kentucky this weekend, which tough game at Kentucky, Ball State, Texas, at Auburn, South Carolina, at LSU, and then first Tennessee. So they've got quite the schedule throughout the remaining portion of this year. So I don't know, man, if they can sneak away with like 1 or 2 of those, I mean, ranked opponents, 1 more or 2 more of those ranked opponent wins, they could have themselves a hell of a year. And maybe we're just riding, you know, like the momentum of Vandy football right now, but it was a cool story. It was fun to see those fans carrying the goalpost through downtown Nashville, throwing it into the river, and just, I don't know.
Yeah,
it was
they took it on like a 3-mile hike to get it to Broadway.
Dude, insane. So
I saw that video circulate, like pop up on Twitter. Someone was like, "Oh my god, they carried the goalpost." I was like, "What clickbait am I seeing? There's no way this is real." And then I watched the video and I was like, "Oh my god, that is real." And you know what? Like, good for everyone involved in that situation that just let that happen, because we may never get to see that again.
Could you imagine being like on a bachelor party or bachelorette party in Nashville, and you're like out on the balcony and you just see all these fans carrying a goalpost through downtown?
I'd be like, am I that drunk? Like, what is happening?
Nuts. So yeah, it was cool. Really fun, exciting time in college football, especially with all of those upsets going on. 5 of the top 11, kind of crazy. You don't get that many in one weekend typically. My team almost was a 6th team to get upset, and by the blessing of Cam Ward and the football gods being on our side, we escaped. At one point, Miami was down 35-10, and Cal's win percentage, like the odds of them winning that game, was 99.3%. And I honestly, man, like I don't know what else to say other than a switch just flipped in Cam's mind, and he was just dominating. He had a really bad interception earlier in the game, maybe the worst interception in college football this entire season. It was a terrible throw. But I mean, to finish out the game, he put up 437 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also ran for a touchdown. Just kind of put the team on his back, man. Really, really impressive win for Miami. They have a bye week this week, which thank God, because if they don't need it, us fans do. It's been a really stressful last 2 games between Virginia Tech and Cal. So yeah, I was speechless at the end of the game. I didn't really know what to say at the fact that they actually won that. It was just insane.
I was just going to ask you, so you got back-to-back games now where you're kind of barely skating by here. What's like the vibe check with Miami football?
The vibe check is less about the last 2 games and more about historically under Mario Cristobal. So I'll provide some context there. So the last 2 games, yeah, really not impressive start. I mean, for you to have to claw back like that just to win against Virginia Tech and Cal, not ideal. Historically, the issue is Miami coming off a bye under Mario Cristobal typically lays an egg and does not play well. So they have to go to Louisville next weekend. They're off this weekend. They have to go to Louisville next weekend and try and top Louisville, who just came off a pretty rough loss. So I'm more worried about like the whole Miami after a bye than I am about the last 2 games. I don't know if it'll be different with Cam Ward. I'm hoping it will, but time will tell, man. It's one of those things where it's like, I feel how I feel until you prove to me otherwise. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. They're giving us a break this weekend though. So thank God for that.
There you go.
Let's dive into making some score or not score predictions.
Score predictions. I was gonna be like, damn, dude.
We're doing bad enough as it is just predicting teams, let alone throwing scores in there too.
I got the ranked matchups pulled up here. I can go through it.
All right, let's do it.
Got a good, interesting one on Friday night. You got number 16 Utah at Arizona State. I'm gonna take Arizona State, and it's weird to say that because I picked Utah to win their conference, but they just got a lot going on, and I feel like it's gonna catch up to them, and so I'm taking Arizona State.
I feel that way about ASU. They were predicted to be really bad this year. I think this is kind of like their wake-up call game, in my opinion. It's in Tempe, so it is an ASU home game. I just think
not much of a home field advantage, to be honest.
They're all going to be hungover. I think it'll be Utah. I'm going to pick Utah.
Starting on Saturday, we got Purdue at Illinois. I'll take Illinois by a lot there. Purdue's pretty bad.
Yeah, I'm going to take Illinois.
And we got Florida at Tennessee. I think Tennessee does a number on Florida, so I think they win that game pretty easily.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the spread is less than I thought it was going to be. It's only 15.5, but I'm going to take Tennessee.
South Carolina at Alabama. That's an Alabama revenge game right there.
Yeah, South Carolina did lose last weekend, if I remember correctly. They're 3-2 on the year. If it's in Tuscaloosa, yeah, that Alabama's going to win that game.
Clemson at Wake Forest. I'm going with Clemson.
Clemson, that's easy.
Missouri at Massachusetts. I'm going to take Missouri by a lot.
You have to. Massachusetts is 1-5 to start the year.
Yeah, they're just I went to the University of Akron. We're a bad football program. I don't think we're UMass bad. So now we got some interesting ones coming up. This is going to be a fun weekend. We got Red River Rivalry, Texas and Oklahoma in Dallas. I'm going with Texas.
I am too. I haven't really been that impressed by Oklahoma this year, so I'm going to take Texas.
We got Penn State at USC for a good Big Ten matchup. I'm going USC here. I feel like Penn State's due for a letdown game. They haven't been playing great this year. Now, they're a good team. I think who's the better team, it's Penn State all day. I feel like USC is going to get them this weekend.
I just talked about Miller Moss and how he's been starting to struggle lately. So since I said that, I feel like I have to pick Penn State. So I'll take Penn State here.
Okay. We got Stanford at Notre Dame. I'm going to take Notre Dame here.
I think Stanford pulls the upset, in all honesty.
Okay.
So I'll take Stanford.
Going with the 23-point underdogs. All right.
That's right.
We got, that's interesting. Cal at Pitt, and it's only a 3-point spread. I'm going to go, just because they're at home, I'm going to go with Pittsburgh.
I think Cal has a bounce back game. I will take Cal this week.
Next, we got Arizona at BYU. Look, I'm going all in on Arizona schools this weekend. I'm taking Arizona to beat BYU.
This one's tough for me because I'd like to do the same, right? I picked Arizona to do really well this year. My issue is Noah Fafita has 7 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. He has not played as well as he was supposed to. I think I'm going to lean BYU here.
Okay. I got a good one here. Mississippi State at Georgia. I'm gonna take Georgia, and I think they push past their 34-point spread in that one.
Yeah, Georgia's going to win big.
Perhaps the game of the weekend, Ohio State at Oregon.
I don't know about that. There's another massive one.
Well, I said perhaps.
Okay.
Yeah, so don't come at me. I was hyped on Oregon heading into the year. I was like, that's my national champion. That's my Big Ten champion. That's my squad. They haven't looked very good. I think Ohio State's going to win this game.
I picked Ohio State to win it all, so I'm going to say Ohio State here.
I'm dialing back on Oregon a little bit, but maybe it's a gut check, and maybe they come out and look great like that. I wouldn't be shocked by that either, but just been overall kind of a disappointing start to the year for them, which is crazy because they're 5-0, but doesn't feel like it.
You talk about a game that could get them right. If they win that game, dude, the momentum they would have would be insane.
Yeah, just tough when Dylan Gabriel's not playing very good. Another game we got here, Ole Miss at LSU. Ole Miss. I'm going to take Ole Miss.
I think I am too. I think I trust Jackson Dart. I kind of, complimented them throughout this year, so I'll stick with Ole Miss here.
Yep, I'm with you. Next, we got Iowa State at West Virginia. That's an interesting one.
Never doubt the ISUs.
We could talk about that if you want. Iowa State is 5-0. You can't really overlook West Virginia, but I'm going to go with Iowa State.
Yeah, it's Iowa State.
Late night one, we got Kansas State at Colorado. I'm going to go with Kansas State. I think they'll beat them fairly easily. It's a 4.5-point spread. I'm going to say Kansas State wins by 10 or more.
Dude, I hate that I'm saying this, but I think Colorado's going to win this game. I want them to lose every game, but I think Colorado wins this for whatever reason. I don't have any explanation, but I feel like this is just such a Colorado win.
Nice. Last ranked matchup of the weekend, we got number 17 Boise State at Hawaii. I'm laughing because I'm looking at ESPN that shows some stats on the side here. Ashton Genty has 1,031 rushing yards this year. Hawaii's quarterback's thrown for 1,328 yards, so he's almost matching what their quarterback's thrown for. I got Boise State here. I think they beat them up pretty easily.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Ashton Genties to win this game against Hawaii.
That's it.
Is that all of them?
That's all the ranked matchups. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. Well, don't quote us on those because we've had some really shitty picks in the past, but we do our best around here. Let's start to talk a little bit about NFL recap. So I think something that's been a really interesting storyline this year is the play of the rookie quarterbacks. And honestly, we're going to start to see more of that now because Drake Maye actually just was announced as a starter. So
all first rounders are starting now.
Yeah, I think let's start there. So what's been your take on these rookie quarterbacks and how they've kind of settled into their roles with their respective teams?
Yeah, we'll save kind of the Caleb talk for when we talk about the Bears, but or at least I will. But I mean, if you've listened to our episodes, my thoughts with him hasn't changed one bit. It feels like they're starting to settle in for a lot of these guys, and Caleb is included in this too. It seemed like once they got that first passing touchdown, they really got that monkey off their back, and now they started to play a little bit better. Seeing that with Bo Nix, especially this past weekend, I would say he probably struggled the most out of any of the rookie quarterbacks so far, which probably isn't surprising. I just, I don't know. I'm not very high on him, but
no.
He had a really good game this past weekend where they beat up on the Raiders. He went 19 of 27 for 206, 2 touchdowns, passing, and then he ran in a touchdown as well. No turnovers for him, which is big too, because that's been a big issue for him so far. But these guys just are seems like they're getting more and more comfortable every week. Jaden Daniels, he had a decent game against the Browns. That was kind of his first big test. He did have an interception, and maybe didn't play as good as he has in the past, but he's been solid for most this year too. So just seems like as the weeks go on, these guys are getting more and more comfortable, and now all of a sudden Drake Maye is going to get thrown into the mix, and I'm really really curious what that's going to look like, because that is a bad offensive line. That is a team with minimal weapons. That might get ugly for him, but hey, you never know. We look at what Caleb Williams is dealing with week 1 to where he's at now. Granted, his offensive line has improved a little bit, but you kind of learn, adapt, and figure out what you got to do.
Yeah, I think it's just been a matter of letting these guys settle in, right? Drake Maye might be a different story because he's just not surrounded by a lot of talent with the line or his receivers or running backs even too. So his story might be a little bit different until maybe next season, but who knows? I mean, he's known for slinging the rock, and in his time at UNC, he threw the ball a ton. So maybe that's just what they're going to expect from him on the Patriots. Caleb, we can save that talk, but Jaden Daniels, yeah, man, he looks really calm for how many games he has under his belt in the NFL. The Commanders are 4-1. His team as a whole is off to a really impressive start. They put up 30 points against the Browns defense, who's really solid. So he's definitely really impressed me. But if I'm going to put a common theme to it, it seems like these guys are just now starting to settle in, right? And the offense is starting to slow down for them, and that's our quarterback included. So, one team, if we want to switch topics here, one team that is really starting to make the turn as well is the Falcons.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins, dude.
Kirko on Thursday night.
Bro.
They called him primetime Cousins. He said, "That's not me anymore. I'm going to go off."
If you guys didn't watch, so he finished 42 of 58, 509 yards, 4 touchdowns, and interception. The fact you throw for 500 yards is impressive. The fact you throw the ball damn near 60 times is impressive. And to have 4 touchdowns thrown into the mix there, dude, the Falcons really seem like they're starting to come together. And the crazy thing is you haven't even really seen the best from Bijan yet. Bijan hasn't really taken over the games yet. So
no.
If he starts to figure it out, this Falcons offense could get really scary. Darnell Mooney has fit in really well with the Falcons offense. Drake London, yep. We know what you're going to get out of him. Kyle Pitts had a pretty nice game. He had 7 receptions for 88 yards. So, Kirk just seems to be finding guys all across the field. He's spreading the ball really well. Falcons offense is looking good.
Yeah, you look at their schedule recently, week 2 they beat the Eagles before we kind of knew what the Eagles were going to be, which is a good win for them. They followed that up with a 4. No, that's not 4. like about a 5-point loss, 6-point loss to Kansas City. Math's really hard. Sorry. So that's close game. Obviously, not many teams get that close to beating Kansas City. And then they beat New Orleans and they beat Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is especially important because that's really their only competition in their division. So
yeah, they were 3-1.
Yep, to be able to get a win over a division rival like that, one you're going to be battling with all year long for a playoff spot and division title. Good for them. Kirk Cousins did have a little bit of a slow start to begin the year, but now he's really starting to catch on. And like you mentioned, he's distributing the ball. He's getting it to everybody. They got a lot of weapons on that offense, and it was only a matter of time before they started hitting stride. And they look like they're not going to be looking back now.
Yeah, I mean, their defense looks pretty decent.
Yeah. The addition of Judon helps their pass rush, and I forget his name, but they got a really good corner too. But
they got Justin Simmons too from the Broncos.
That's right. I forgot about that. Interruption here, but the Mets did beat the Phillies, so the Mets are moving on to the NLCS.
Dude, that's nuts. Our whole bracket is busted.
Miracle Mets. First time since 2015. Anyways, back to the NFL. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of Atlanta's going to be appointment television soon. Maybe they're starting to put up numbers. NFL loves points, and they're kind of doing what they need to do. So they'll be fun to watch, and I'm sure we'll probably get more primetime games with them coming up.
I'm good with it. They haven't been good since the Mike Vick era, so to have a team like Atlanta be good would be exciting for the NFL.
I mean, they made a Super Bowl with Matt Ryan, but
Yeah, fair. But they did have like one of the biggest fucking messes of all time.
Yep.
What was it, like 28-3 or something like that, and they lost that game? Just nuts.
Yep.
Jaguars finally got a win under their belt here. Is that their first? Yeah, that is their first win of the season. Yep. So they beat Joe Flacco and the Colts.
All it took was having to play old man Flacco in the Colts.
Dude, but crazy thing, like Joe Flacco's been playing really good football. I mean, he still had a nice game. He had 33 of 44, 359, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Had a better QB rating than Trevor Lawrence did that game. So he's looking really good. It's kind of crazy to see Joe Flacco at second coming here. But back to the Jaguars.
You know what it was, though? It was that day was Trevor Lawrence's birthday. So really what he was doing this whole time was he was just waiting to gift Jaguars fans their first win on his birthday. So now they're going to take off, but he just wanted to do that for Jaguars fans.
Well, he can take next weekend off too, or this weekend. Dude, it's funny. It seems like it's kind of like the Jaguars are making a shift to like younger players again, because Tank Bigsby has been so nice for them, dude. He had 100 yards. He had 100 yards on only 13 carries, 2 touchdowns. Travis Etienne hasn't looked that great, but then also
why I say don't remind me. I got him on my fantasy team.
I avoided him, thank God. Also Brian Thomas Jr., the rookie.
He's doing good.
Dude, 5 receptions, 122 yards. He had a touchdown. Man, like these younger guys for the Jaguars, maybe that's what they needed for this team to turn it around, but they've looked pretty nice. That's about as much Jaguars and Colts talk as I have in my system, because both of those teams have just been kind of so far this year. Let's talk about the Cowboys-Steelers game. It was an interesting game. It felt like there wasn't a ton of action. Dak obviously had the late heroics to put the Cowboys ahead and end up winning that game. My question to you is, with Justin Fields and how he's performed lately, do you think the Steelers are going to make a change at quarterback?
I think they should. I mean, they brought Russ in to be the starter initially. And you look at Fields, he's in that game, he was averaging 4.9 yards per pass attempt. Like, that's not going to get it done. I'm not going to say Russ is going to come in and be a miracle worker, but, I mean, you signed the guy, like, you might as well see what you got in him. the Steelers' offense is just so blah and really hasn't had much progression at all this year, if they even have had any. And I think maybe it's time to just see what you got in Russ. Maybe see if that sparks a fire under the rest of the guys and gets them to rally around him. But yeah, I don't know. I just think you got to try something. You went from being on top of the world to losing 2 in a row, and all because your defense isn't giving up single digits in points. They put up seven. The Steelers put up 17 points. That's not going to get it done in the NFL these days.
So Justin Fields, where he ranks among quarterbacks, QBR 22nd, number of interceptions thrown, he's tied for 30th, touchdowns tied for 17th, and yards thrown is 21st. So he's basically bottom third in almost every statistical category as a quarterback, and I think that speaks a lot of how he's performed. Here's my take. I do think that they should give Russ a chance. I also think that could be very beneficial for Justin Fields to learn from Russ as Russ is going back into playing. Who knows where Justin will be next year? I don't know if the Steelers are going to try and sign him to a new deal, but I think it could be very beneficial for Justin's career to learn from a quarterback like Russ if Russ is given that playing time. So I'm with you. I think they should give him a chance. One team I am personally happy to see struggle is the San Francisco 49ers, man. They're 2-3 this year. They just lost to the Cardinals in honestly heartbreaking fashion. I don't know if you watched that game at all, but just lost to the Cardinals, who are also just so this year. Yeah. What in the world is going on in San Francisco?
I know they're hurt and they've got some injuries that they're dealing with, but you're also looking at a team that's just stacked. Their roster is loaded, probably the most talented roster in the NFL. So it's not really an excuse for how poor they've been playing. But, I mean, you look at their 2 wins this year. They beat the Patriots and they beat the Jets. Like, that's also not really
everyone's beating the Jets.
Yeah. They got coaches getting fired week 5. Like, it's been interesting. I really didn't think that the 49ers would be off to this slow of a start. And 2 of their losses are against divisional opponents, too. They lost to the Rams and the Cardinals already. They got a big one on Thursday night. I think they'll get it right, and I think they'll be back in the win column. But, but for now, they're probably maybe, I don't know, you could say maybe the most disappointing team so far.
Yeah, definitely one of them. I mean, I think you can technically throw the Jaguars in there too. Just because
Cleveland, you got in there, but that's Browns are the Browns. They're one year they could be great, the next year they could be horrible. It's just how it is.
Yeah, Eagles are 2-2. That could be another one. But here's the thing, dude. Like with the 49ers, you can't even say like, oh, Christian McCaffrey's been out. Jordan Mason has been playing so well for them.
I have always said this about the 49ers too. It's like I could probably go be their running back and get positive yards on a drive just because of their scheme and their system that they run. So, it sucks losing Christian McCaffrey. He's an unbelievable player, but you can literally plug anyone into that offense and they'll be fine. And we've seen it with Jordan Mason.
Dude, his worst game, he had 4.1 yards per carry. Every other game, it's been 5 or 6 yards per carry. So it's like he's playing well. You guys, you can't put the blame on him. Can't put the blame on Christian McCaffrey. It's just they have not looked good overall.
No, they have not. Interruption again. Yankees and Royals 2-2 in the bottom of the 5th.
Yeah, dude, I just saw that too. Royals, man. I don't know who has scored runs for them, but it's kind of just been.
Let's see here, buddy.
Massey and Isbell. They've just been like a next man up type of team. But to finish out the NFL storylines before we take our picks for this week, Jets fired Robert Saleh. Honestly, not crazy surprising. I think the timing was surprising more than anything. I thought he would get another like 3 or 4 games, but if you're a New York team, I guess they're just like, oh, why wait?
You know what they probably said to him when they fired him?
What?
They probably said, "Sayonara, Saleh."
Wow.
Yeah, that was.
And the podcast is over, folks. We are done recording podcasts.
Our subscriber growth is just new heights. Come for the football talk, stay for the good jokes. But I'm with you on that. I mean, it just seemed like it was gonna happen eventually. I just didn't think they'd do it now. I mean, I don't know. Did Aaron Rodgers intentionally throw 3 interceptions to get his coach fired? That's questions that we need to ask. You know, I'm not saying it did happen. Just my observation. You know, maybe
I wouldn't put it past him
through the game so he could get his coach fired. But just a tough situation, and it's funny too. I was talking with a coworker about this today, actually. They're in the mix for Devontae Adams. If I'm Devontae Adams, I'm not wanting to go there now. Like, why? Like, even if you knew you're probably going to fire Saleh, like, maybe try to get, like, better with, like, the opportunity to get a guy like Devontae Adams and give that a shot before you make a move like this. And here's the thing, too. If Rodgers doesn't tear his Achilles last year, Saleh's probably here for the rest of this season, assuming that it was an okay year. That kind of was Saleh's Achilles heel.
One would say they use that as a crutch, no pun intended.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just a matter of time. And I mean, with New York teams, they tend to pull the plug faster than some other cities like the White Sox. But it's kind of a no story. There's a lot of people who are like, Bill Belichick, go coach the Jets. I'm like, oh, yeah, you put Bill Belichick and Aaron Rodgers together. That's going to work real well.
I would try to finagle my way to be able to, like, sit in on a few of those
fly on the
meetings.
wall. Oh, yeah. My God, dude, yeah. We'll put a bug in the Jets training facility. All right, let's jump to making some picks for this week. So Thursday night game, we've got the 49ers and the Seahawks in Seattle.
49ers and Seahawks Thursday night in Seattle. No, San Francisco's been playing bad. Seattle's coming off a lot. San Francisco, get that game.
Yeah, duh. 49ers by 20.
At least.
We've got the early game. We can save that for our Chicago talk, the Bears Jaguars. So let's jump to Cardinals Packers, and this is in Green Bay.
Because it's in Green Bay, I'll go with Green Bay, but Cardinals have been a frisky team this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they won that game.
Dude, I'm going to pick them actually because of that. They just came off a big win. Kyler Murray seems to be connecting really well right now with his receivers. Marvin Harrison's due for another big game, so I'm going to say Cardinals. Colts and Titans we've got in Nashville.
Oh man.
Well, what a barn burner this one is.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. That's ugly. I
don't know if Anthony Richardson's playing.
I don't even think it matters. You know what? I'm going to pick the Titans.
Injury
just because they're at home.
I don't know. I'd have to read the article to figure it out. I think so too, because at that point, if Anthony Richardson's out, and Joe Flacco's been playing well, but like Jonathan Taylor could be shut down with that Titans defensive line. They're pretty impressive, so I'll say the Titans.
Yeah.
Texans and Patriots.
The Texans, it's going to be a welcome to the NFL moment for Drake Maye, unfortunately.
Yeah, just like it was for Caleb. Buccaneers and Saints in New Orleans.
Spencer Rattler starting that game, if you didn't hear that already. I'm going to take the Bucs. I don't think it'll be close. Rattler kind of sucks.
I think that one's pretty easy. Browns and Eagles.
And as a football player.
Yeah. Browns and Eagles in Philly.
Oh, that's a toilet bowl. I'm going to go with the Eagles, though.
You have to, dude. Browns, I mean, Deshaun Watson has just been trash. And, like, Jalen Hurts has not been impressive, but he's better than Deshaun Watson. Commanders
better than Deshaun Watson.
This one could be interesting, dude. We've got Commanders and Ravens in Baltimore.
I'm going to go with the Ravens. And I just think that between their defense and Lamar, going to be hard for Washington to keep up with them. I think Jaden Daniels stumbles a little bit in this game. I think Ravens win.
If the Ravens weren't 3-2, I think I'd pick the Commanders here, but the Ravens really just need to start stockpiling some wins together to, get a better seed for the playoffs. So I'll say the Ravens here.
Tough loss last week against Cincinnati, but that game was awesome.
Yeah, that was. Chargers and Broncos in Denver.
Chargers are pretty banged up. Not quite sure if Herbert's going to play or not. That's obviously a pretty big deciding factor. So I will say this. If Herbert plays, I'm taking the Chargers. If Herbert doesn't play, I'm going with the Broncos.
I think it's going to be the Chargers. I think J.K. Dobbins is going to have a really nice day against the Broncos defense. We've got Steelers and Raiders in Vegas.
Aiden O'Connell starting for the Raiders. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think so. I think Russ should have a pretty nice game against them. Lions and Cowboys in Arlington.
I am surprised. I'm surprised that's not a primetime game, but that's okay. Yeah, this is interesting.
Oh, yeah, dude. The Sunday night game sucks.
I'm going to go with the Cowboys here. I just feel like they have some momentum coming off that win in Pittsburgh. And I feel like they'll keep that rolling this week against Detroit.
Dude, this just seems like such a Cowboys win, doesn't it? You know what I mean? Like, they get their fans all fired up. They get the media talking, oh, are the Cowboys legit now?
But at the same time, it can be a typical Cowboys letdown, too.
Yeah, and then fans start having a meltdown again. I think I'm going to take the Cowboys because of how poor the Lions' defense has been this year. The Cowboys' defense is actually at least decent. So I think I'll take the Cowboys. Falcons and Panthers in Charlotte. That's easy.
We didn't just hype up the Falcons earlier to pick the Panthers, so yeah. I think we both have our answer there.
Falcons. This is the Sunday night game. This kind of sucks. I think I'd rather have Lions Cowboys as the Sunday night game, but Sunday night is Bengals and Giants.
I'll take the Bengals.
Yeah, dude, Joe Burrow's quietly having a pretty nice season. Yep. And then Monday night, we've got the Bills and the Jets in East Rutherford, New Jersey at MetLife.
I'm going to go with the Bills.
I'm going to say the Jets here. I think it's going to be a similar situation to the Raiders when they fired their coach last year. I think the Jets are going to go into this game with a different attitude, so I'll shockingly say the Jets here. All right, that's it for our national storylines. We're going to jump to Chicago topics now before Sean falls asleep. So let's start with some NHL talk, Sean. I'm going to let you take the reins here. I saw the box score for the Blackhawks game last night. Didn't watch any of it, but I saw it was 5-2 game. What were your takeaways from the game? Because obviously that box score says pretty ugly loss, but did it seem closer than that?
You were going to have to be my correspondent for this one, dude. It was on a 20-minute delay. It started at like 9:38 my time. I watched 2 minutes of the game, and then I passed out. But no, the game was a lot closer than 5-2. You're looking at a game that was 3-2 late into the third period with the Blackhawks trailing, obviously. They ended up losing 5-2, but it was okay, I guess. Foligno and Teravainen scored the goals for the Blackhawks. Bedard had 2 assists, so he had a multi-point night to start the year. But I mean, hey, like it was kind of like a playoff atmosphere in Utah. They packed the arena. It was pretty hyped, so I can't say I'm surprised that they won. And this is a Coyotes team that isn't. I mean, it's not terrible anymore. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. Overall, Blackhawks they're coming off a horrible preseason, so I was curious to see how they would look. They looked maybe a little bit better than I anticipated. This team is not going to be very good. I'm guessing probably still a top 10 pick is in play for this year when it comes to the end of the season. But they should, with that being said, they should have improvements still. But I mean, I don't know, all things considered for your first game, probably could have been better. Got off to a tough start in the first period and saw themselves down 2-0, and that kind of was really the difference there. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, just good to have hockey back. I just wish it wasn't at 9:38 p.m. for the first game.
Yeah, that's a little rough. All right, I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to answer only in yes or no, okay? Is Peter Mrazek a shitty goalie?
He's average, I would say.
That was not an answer. That was not an option, Sean.
I'm making an option. Like, I don't think he's shitty by any means. I think he's very average. I think for a team like the Blackhawks, who, I mean, they spent like they want to compete, but they're not really not yet quite there. He's perfect for that situation. NHL
So he'll
these
basically
days,
be like a serviceable backup for most of his career.
yeah, like NHL these days, you're seeing a lot of 1-2 punches for goalies. Like, he'd be a great 2, like a great second punch guy that gives you your regular starter a break, gives him some rest. It's not an automatic loss when he's on the ice. You know, it's not like Soderblom, who we saw last year and who we're going to have to see this year until our backup comes back. But like, he's not an elite goalie by any means, but they could have a much, much worse goalie.
So he's the Tyson Bagent of hockey.
He's probably better than Tyson Bagent. He's been around for a long time. He's started for a long time.
Have some respect.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, I mean, I did see that Bedard did have 2 assists. Obviously, I was checking the box score, but I was just curious if that game appeared closer than 5-2.
They got a tough slate to start the year. They're playing at Winnipeg on Friday, at Edmonton on Saturday.
Oh, wow.
And then at Calgary on Tuesday. So it's not going to get any easier for them for a little bit. Their first home game's October 17th after that Calgary game against the Sharks. So that could maybe be their first win.
So should we just start the tank now?
Yeah, it's already started.
All right, let's talk about the other team who plays in the same building. Let's talk about the Bulls. They had their first preseason game against the Cavs, ended up winning 116-112.
Yeah.
Dude, honestly, my first takeaway here is Kobe White's picking up where he left off with last season, which I love to see. My concern with Kobe from last year is I hope to God this isn't just a flash in the pan. And he seems to be picking up really nicely to where he left off last year. What did you notice about last night's game or the box score?
I watched it, homie.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, I got NBA League Pass. What do you mean? The Bulls and Kobe White, he looked good for a guy that's getting his first taste of like game action in a long time. I think he shot like 7-15, something like that. Kind of felt like he was the best player on the court for the Bulls whenever he was on the court. So as long as he keeps developing that way, sweet. But 21 points I know that led the Bulls. That led all scorers. So, hey, good start to the season for him. Obviously, it doesn't count. It's just preseason. But, he's a shooter. So if he starts getting into a groove now, it's a good thing. So hopefully that continues.
The worst performer for the Bulls last night, no surprise here, Pat Williams. He had almost as many turnovers as he did points. He had 4 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, and finished with a plus-minus of -18. Not really impressed with him still, but, we're just going to keep riding that one out because we paid him. So a couple guys that I wanted to talk about. One guy that quietly had a rookie campaign last year, Julian Phillips, looked pretty good in the summer. He
looked good last night too.
Yeah, he finished with 9 points, 4 rebounds, just quality minutes there.
I'm excited about him. I hope he gets some extended minutes once the regular season rolls around, but he looks like he might be a good little depth piece.
Yeah, he's aggressive, which I appreciate. Jalen Smith also looked really nice. He had 11 points, 10 rebounds.
One thing to note of Jalen Smith, I cannot believe it. I really cannot believe this. It is sickening. They're letting him wear Ben Gordon's number.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yep.
That's messed up. And then finally, our rookie from this year's draft, Matis Buzelis. He had a pretty nice game last night. Scoring efficiency. He shot 4 of 9. Not terrible, not great. He had 12 points.
He was impressive last night on both ends of the floor.
Yeah.
He came in and he immediately drove to the hoop and had a floater, had a couple of blocks defensively, kind of brought that energy, and he he didn't play until midway through the second quarter, maybe.
Wow.
But, you know, kind of what we saw flashes of in the summer league, we saw again last night, and
It's good.
that has me thinking he's probably going to play quite a bit. Not because, you know, the Bulls are bad and they're working towards the future, but he's probably going to be one of their better players, and he's going to earn his minutes pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah, I mean, as he should. He was just outside of a top 10 pick. He was pick number 11. You know what I mean? So, like, he should. But, like, the fact he's playing the same way he did in the summer league against better competition, which is exactly what you can ask for.
Yep. He had a nice defensive play against, I think it was Donovan Mitchell. It was either Mitchell or Garland. Either way, you're looking at an all-star versus a rookie, and you know, they tried to pull a move on and do a quick pull-up jumper, and he rode with them the whole way, and they missed a shot, and like I was like, damn, that's nice. Like we got room for that on the court whenever you want to be playing like that, buddy. But another guy I wanted to talk about too that looked good for the Bulls last night was Ayo Dosunmu. He came off the bench, and the Bulls were down early. They got down big pretty quickly in that one. They ended up winning the game, but he came in and he nailed a couple of shots, and he gave them a boost of energy when they desperately needed it. And I know it's a preseason game, but I mean, like, they were flat for a bit. Then he came in and he provided a spark. So that was good to see too.
That's exactly what he does. I mean, he did it in college too. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't come off the bench, but like when the team needed a spark, he was there to provide that spark. So it's nice to see him continuously, because he just got paid this offseason too. So it's good to see him continuously provide that spark when we need it.
One couple other observations I had.
Yeah.
Taylor Horton Tucker has got the I'm gonna get mine mentality. I think he came in and I swear he shot every possession.
Yeah.
And he just drove to the hoop and threw it up. Literally, like, I think like almost every possession he did that when he could. And then the other thing I noticed, so I do have NBA League Pass, which means I can pick and choose the broadcast I get to watch. So I got to watch the new Chicago Sports Network broadcast. Not a fan of their score bug for a basketball game.
It's I heard bad things about it.
It's in the top left corner, and it's tall, so it kind of is in the way. And I was just like, for basketball, I don't know if I like that. For hockey, they already showed that. Like, that was cool because that really wasn't in the way. Because, you know, when you're watching a hockey game, that's pretty much like the crowd and stuff that's up there. It's not going to get in your way. For basketball, it's on a piece of the court, and it's transparent. So it's just, I don't know, it's weird. It's like, weird. I wish they would do it on the bottom of the screen for basketball, but I'm guessing they're probably going to have a specific format. But one other thing to notice is people were complaining there was no shot clock on the score bug at first. Well, all of a sudden, after a TV timeout, a shot clock magically appeared on there. So they are listening to people.
I have a feeling they'll probably fix the location of it if more people keep talking. So, and that's one of those things they can easily fix. You know what I mean? So hopefully they do. All right, I think that's all we have for Bulls talk. Let's jump to the Bears, and then we'll round it up with just a small White Sox story. But Bears-Panthers recap. I was thoroughly impressed with Caleb Williams. Now, again, we talked about this in last week's podcast. It's a defense he should have dominated against. But I saved some tweets just to show or to talk to people about how nice his game was and how good he's been so far. So the highest QBR in week 5 through Sunday, this does not include Monday night's game, was Caleb Williams with an 83.8. Okay? The only quarterbacks in the NFL this season to have multiple games with 300 passing yards and 2+ passing touchdowns, Caleb Williams, Dak Prescott, and Joe Burrow. Good company to be in, okay? So that's the Caleb Williams part. He just looked like he was commanding the offense. He made some really nice touch throws. The one touchdown to DJ Moore was just ridiculous. I think I watched that clip like 10 times.
He had a nice little sidearm pass. I think it was maybe beautiful. On a screen to Swift, or it was either to Komet.
And he technically ran for a touchdown too, which just got called back because of a flag. So I don't think I could have asked. Yeah, I honestly don't think I could have asked much more than I did from Caleb Williams. They They won by 26 points. I'm going to jump to the other side of the ball, and then I'll let you take the mic. So one guy we so desperately needed to perform this year, was Gervon Dexter. He's leading all of the entire NFL in defensive linemen with 5 sacks. He has been dominant to start the year. And
big sacks.
Honestly, it could not have come at a better time. He's been phenomenal for the Bears. I hope he continues this play. But big props to him. The Bears defense as a whole, the defense has allowed 21 points or less in 11 straight games, which is the longest streak in the NFL. They're just built different, man. Like, they are going out and dominating games. And again, it's the Carolina Panthers. Nothing crazy. But it's 11 straight games of 21 or less. The Bears defense is looking really nice.
Yeah, I agree with you there. We're seeing Jaquan Brisker put multiple weeks of really, really good football in the books. Unfortunately, looks like he's probably going to be out with a concussion this week. Oh, that's official.
Yep.
Because I heard he could travel and could make it there, but it's already Wednesday, so.
Yeah, they already announced he's out.
Oh, gotcha. So, so he concussed himself on a big hit. Not surprised.
Do it for the squad.
Yeah. But he's been good. You know who I've been really impressed with in terms of on-field production and leadership is Kevin Byard. Yeah. I feel like he's not – I mean, he led the team in tackles this week, but I feel like he's not flooding the stat sheet, but he's coming up with plays, whether it's a pick, whether it's a tackle, whether it's a breakup, at pivotal times in the game. And he's also – every time I see a video of them in the locker room or something, he's one that's speaking up. He's one that's talking. Very, very, very good signing, very under the radar signing for the Bears. Glad we got him for another year. And you just look at the difference with him compared to Eddie Jackson last year. It's just unbelievable the amount of production we're getting out of him. And I've been really satisfied with what he's done so far. Had an interception this past week. But yeah, he's been good. Defense as a whole is looking good. I mean, Gervon Dexter looking like one of the better interior defensive linemen. I think you're looking at a guy, if he continues this, he's not only going to be a Pro Bowler, but looking at possible All-Pro season. Obviously, that's a long ways away from now, but if he keeps up this pace, he's going to be putting up some ridiculous numbers. But it's glad things are doing good and he's working out well because, he's one of those guys that he's got all the tools and talent in the world. It's just a matter of if he can put it together and if he wants to put it together. And it seems like this is kind of who he's going to be. So,
dude, he was a high risk, high ceiling player when we drafted him. We just didn't know which version we were going to get. And it's nice to see him putting in the work because he's been dominant on the field for the Bears.
Another takeaway, offensive side of the ball, DeAndre Swift is back. He had another really strong game. I think maybe we got this running back thing figured out all of a sudden. Roschon Johnson getting in the mix too. He had 2 touchdowns. So good to see them, even though Swift's having, back-to-back great weeks, good to see them utilize their depth quite a bit there. I was glad to see DeAndre Swift get a touchdown because he was working his balls off all game and fell just short a couple of times. But, bringing it back all the way to Caleb now, we're looking at a guy that's just continuing to get better every single week. We are looking at a guy that is flashing all of the different ways he can impact the game, whether that is like a sidearm screen pass when you got your, front side blocked and there's no window for you to get the ball out or you're going to take a sack, or a guy that's sneaky athletic and he's going to go pick up a first down and maybe juke a couple guys in the process, or a guy who's able to throw dots to DJ Moore downfield and put the ball in a spot where only he can catch it. We're really seeing a lot of growth out of him, and we're seeing a lot of growth quickly. And I'm getting it to the point now where, and it's hard to say this, or it's hard to believe that I can say this.
You're going to get a tattoo?
Bears fan. No. It's hard. It's hard to say this as a Bears fan, but like I'm getting to the point now where I'm not really worried about the quarterback. Yeah. I just am not. I was excited to see what he did against the Panthers. I think he should have done that. Granted, he's a rookie, so I would have maybe been a little lenient had he had some struggles. But, it just got to the point where, like, when the game was on and he was going off, I was like, this is what I expected, So it's good to have those expectations. I mean, obviously a lot can happen, and NFL's a hard sport, but I mean, we're looking at a guy that's able to do these things when he has a dysfunctional offensive line for the most part. And, he does have good weapons, but they haven't been healthy the whole year. So, it's fun. It's been fun to see the growth. It's been fun to see the development. And, I'm sure a lot of Bears fans feel the same way, but I'm counting down like the days till every Sunday. Like, it's just fun watching him and being able to watch him start his NFL career, especially when he's doing it for your favorite team.
Victory Mondays are fun, man. And speaking of fun, like, Caleb's having fun while he's going out and doing this, and that's what I love about it, right? Like, he's not losing sight of that. Now, I'll be honest, man. He's going to have a pretty hard stretch here coming up, okay? So the next, 8 or so games, we've obviously got Jacksonville, at Washington, at the Cardinals, Patriots, fine. Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit, San Francisco, Minnesota, Detroit. That's a hard stretch right there. So that's 2, 4, 6 games. You've got Detroit twice, Minnesota twice, Green Bay once, and San Francisco. That's going to be a pretty telling stretch there on how quickly he's learning and really what his rookie campaign will look like. But I'm on your side. I am very optimistic about his season and him being the quarterback of our future. Let's make a jump to a Jaguars prediction in London. Jaguars are struggling. No secret to anybody. They're one of the worst teams in the NFL in third down efficiency. They they get a first down at a 25% clip. So that's something I think our defense really needs to take advantage of. I'm really worried about Trayvon Walker, their defensive end. He has 5 sacks this year. He's tied for 5th in the NFL. Our line has been better lately, but he's a player to watch. If I had to predict this game, I'm going to take the Bears. I just think overall we're a better team. I'm worried about Brian Thomas and the long ball there, but I think it's going to be a 24-20 game. I think it's going to be pretty close, but I think the Bears take the edge and leave London with a win.
I think the Bears win as well. Jaguars defense as a whole, not very good.
No.
I think Caleb will be able to pick them apart a little bit. Since we're doing score predictions, I'll say Bears win 27 to 17.
10-point spread. Wow.
Yeah.
That would be the biggest spread of the week.
I'm all about spreading it. Just like Caleb likes spreading it out to his receivers.
Well, I'd love to see more of it. I'd love to see more of Keenan Allen, too. So hopefully we get to see some more of Keenan Allen this week because that's definitely a reliable vet that we need to take advantage of more. All right, then I think that wraps up for Bears talk. The last thing we had here on the notes is there was some smoke this week. I don't know where this really came from, but Buck Schowalter apparently wants the White Sox job. Is that somebody you want managing our team right now?
No, I mean, Buck Schowalter's got a good resume. He's done a good job turning bad teams into good teams in a fairly quick rate. He just hasn't been able to get over the hump and win when it comes time to win in the postseason and stuff. He's an older manager. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think that's the route the White Sox should go. Not necessarily with Buck Schowalter, but with like an older candidate. So I'm going to say no. And obviously the whole ability for him to, turn a bad situation into a decent one pretty quickly is enticing. But I also think this is a different beast. And I don't think that's something that he would be able to do. And I think 2 years from now, we'd be kind of in the same spot, being like, we're going to have to hire another manager. It's looking like this Buck Schowalter experiment's not going to work out. So he must be bored or he wants to try to do one final test or something. But I don't think that should be in the south side of Chicago.
I don't think Buck Schowalter would be a bad hire, but I also don't think he'd be a good hire. He kind of falls somewhere in between right now at this point in his life. Now, I'm in the same boat. I think we need a young mind. I think we need a fresh mind to come in. Now, I don't think they'll pay the right person. I don't think they'll get who they need to get, but I think it needs to be somebody new, somebody fresh that was with an organization that saw a lot of success, i.e. the Dodgers, the Padres, a team like that. So I'm going to say no. He's not a bad guy. He's not a bad hire. He's just not an exciting hire, and I don't think he'd be the right fit for the future of this organization.
No. Would you rather have him or Grady Sizemore if you had to pick one?
Jesus. It's so hard. Honestly, I think Buck, because he's got the experience, and Grady technically does too, but I also don't know if Buck would take Jerry's bullshit, so maybe Buck.
Yeah, that's fair.
So who would you pick?
I'd probably just pick Grady because who knows what you get with him.
Yeah.
He could end up being really good, or he could end up being really bad too. But there at least is some sort of intrigue there, and not knowing what you'll get out of him.
That's fair. All right, y'all. Well, that's all we have for this week's episode. As always, thank you for tuning in and listening each week. We will be back again next week with another jam-packed episode, I'm sure. So thanks for hanging out, and we'll see y'all next week.